system and how it can save you money on your cooling for walk-in coolers. So basically, Airstream Free Energy is for walk-in coolers. Okay, so these are the type of ones that you find in the refrigeration, that are in stores, convenience stores, that type of thing. I don't know whether you've ever sort of looked in and you see a whole room back there. So these walk-in coolers are very efficient in the way that they work. However, the technology is around 30 or 40 years behind time. So basically, a walk-in cooler is basically a room with a compressor, which is perhaps on the roof area. Usually it's usually outside of the building, so the compressor comes up here, and is usually in a box and consists of lots of pipes and big fans in there as well. And inside the actual store itself, let's make this a bit straighter. Inside the store itself, inside the actual cooler itself, you'll see, if you look in, you'll see a bank of fans that are called evaporators. Okay, these are big fans. They usually run around sort of about 100 watts each for these fans to run. There's usually 3 to 4 in each bank, and sometimes there can be up to 2 banks of them in a small walk-in cooler. Also, you will find little glass doors at the front of the unit where people can reach in and grab their bottles of Coke, Pepsi, whatever they want to do. So basically what it is that these glass doors are there to make it easy for people to see what's there and be able to pick their product up and obviously pay for it. Okay, now what tends to happen is these evaporators, for example, run for 23 hours a day. So they run for 23 hours constantly. They only switch off for 20 minutes 3 times a day to go through a defrost cycle. So basically they're running all the time, no matter what the compressor's doing. So what we do during the summer months in Canada, we put in 2 holes, 10-inch holes, one on one side of the walk-in cooler, one on the other. These are duct either through to the roof or through to the side of the building, preferably, so they can even come out the side here and be joined up and have a little vent going outside the building. And the same thing here, these will go outside the building as well. So, but the thing is, these compressors and evaporators run all year round. But in Canada, and lots of a great deal of the US, the temperature outside is often the same or less than the actual cooler itself. So what we do here is we look at the temperature that's running outside. So we basically have in essence a thermometer that says what the temperature is. Once it drops below the cooler temperature, which is usually 5 degrees C, once it drops below that, we say to ourselves, you know what, the temperature outside is cooler than the temperature actually inside the cooler. So why don't we use Mother Nature to help us out and bring that cool air in? So we basically open up these fans, switch off the compressor, we switch off the evaporator units and bring in that beautiful Mother Nature cool air at less than 5 degrees C. So what that does obviously is save an immense amount of energy. You're not running the compressors, you're not running the evaporators, and then what we also do, we have a couple of small fans, we call them circulation fans, that basically push the air around the whole cooler to help move that cold air around. Now these evaporators, so this is just one of about 6 different controls that we have that help you to save on energy a great deal, you know, on a day-to-day basis, at cooler times of the year. Now don't forget, in Canada we sometimes have very warm days, you know, it could be 14, 15, 16 degrees, but at night, boom, it just plummets. The cold air just comes in, and overnight you find that you're actually running, you know, 2, 3 or 4 degrees C. So during those times overnight, you know, which could be 5, 6 hours quite easily out of a 24-hour period where you can use that free air. Now one of the other things, so that's how it works, you know, in terms of using the service during the late fall, early spring and winter months. However, during other times of year we have other ways of saving a great deal of hydro costs and electricity costs as well. Normally what tends to happen is the compressors on the roof, they run periodically. They use a great deal of electricity. They cool the coolant comes in through to the evaporator units and little fins at the back, and these then the air is pushed out. But these evaporator fans run, like I said, 23 hours a day. But if the compressor's not running, then really you're not getting any greater benefit by all of these fans running. There's usually, like I said, 4 to 5 of these in a bank. So let's say there's 4 at 100 watts each. That's 400 watts of electricity that's being used 23 hours a day. So what we do is, if the compressor's not running, we say, well, why are we doing this? Why are we running these expensive fans that are energy hungry? Why don't we use our basically our circulation fans to push the air around the cooler instead of the evaporators? These run at I think it's 26 watts each roughly. So you've got 2 times 26 watts, which is 52 watts really against your 400 watts. So you can see there's, you know, 8 it's running at 1/8 of the regular electricity cost while the compressor's not running. When the compressor's running, it's everything back to normal. So the compressors are running, the evaporators are running, because you're getting the benefit of that cool air. One of the other things that we do is with these cooler units is we have glass doors. Now these glass doors, a lot of people don't realize, if you were to look closely at them, they actually have a gasket that runs around them and a heater that runs inside them. Now this heater is called an anti-sweat heater. What it does is it helps to evaporate some of the moisture that can come onto the glass whenever you get warm air meeting cold air. There's a chance that you can cause condensation. That condensation can build up on the doors and obviously prevent people from being able to see what's inside the cooler. So these heaters here run for 24 hours a day. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, no matter what's happening. So what we do, we put inside of the actual store itself, we put in a humidistat, which basically, as the name suggests, check the humidity, because if the relative humidity is not at a certain level and the temperature in the store is not of a certain level, there really isn't any reason to have these door heaters on. You do not need them, because you're not going to get any condensation. If you're not going to get any condensation, then why have the heater on? So this enables you to basically save more electricity. You can save basically 80% of the running costs of those door heaters, and usually there's 4, 5, 6 or even more heaters that are on there, enabling you to save even more money on the door heaters. One of the other ways that we can save money is on a defrost cycle. So on a defrost cycle, if we were to look a little more closely at the back of the evaporator unit. So here's a cross section of the evaporator unit. It's a bit like the grill of your radiator in your car, in essence, with a big fan in front of it that draws all of the energy through. So basically, what happens is, for 3 times a day, it'll run for 20 minutes on basically a defrost cycle. Okay, so it does this, and it has basically a heater that heats up these areas at the back of the evaporator unit to help dislodge and get rid of any of the frost buildup that can happen. However, most of the time there isn't any frost. So not only do these heaters that are in the back of the evaporator units use a lot of electricity, obviously by creating the heat that they do, that means more cooling is required. So that means your compressor and everything else has got to work a little harder, because you're actually introducing heat, just like the glass doors are doing. You're introducing heat into that area, so the cooling system has to work a little harder. So what we do is we put in a little sensor inside of a little probe that goes to our box of controls. We put in a little sensor at the back that says, look, is there any frost? No, there isn't. Okay, we don't have to run our defrost cycle. So this can happen literally for days and days before there's a slight build-up of frost, and then at that point it'll run the defrost cycle only when required. So that's another way that we can save money. One of the other ways is making use of time of use. If you've ever seen your hydro bill when it comes in, these days you have time of use areas that during the different times of the year, whereby at 7 a.m. we go down to a cheaper period, and then during the day, when there's peak demand on the hydro system, that's when you pay that peak rate. But of course at night, you tend to when these are cheaper rates here, we pay less electricity. So what we do with basically with a time of use, we sort of capitalize on this, and we say, you know what, because the electricity is a little cheaper this time, why don't we, instead of having it at 5 degrees C, why don't we drop it down a couple more degrees, let's say through to 3 degrees or somewhere in that area, and capitalize on this on these cheaper rates. And then what happens is, obviously during the when the store is open, maybe at sort of 9 or 10, that temperature slowly comes up. The compressors and everything aren't having to work as hard. They get back up to the regular 5 degrees, and during the peak hours it's running at the regular rate. So what this enables you to do is you drop the temperature a little more during the nighttime and off-peak rates, and also you can do the opposite and let the temperature even increase to 6.5 degrees or something like that. You can do during the peak time. So basically you can fluctuate your use, and we can program it in such a way that it'll help you a great deal to save even more money. One of the other areas that we're able to do some help is, obviously whenever you have these glass doors in these stores, there's always some usually T8s or T12s, T8s or T12